Yeah, we back. Now, I've spoken on this topic before in previous videos when the audience was a little smaller, but I guess I'll bring it back now that the audience has grown a little bit. And we're going to talk about why black leaders sell out. Now, I know when the topic of black geopolitics comes up, the one thing we always talk about is the government corruption. The leaders, they selling out. The leaders, they selling out to the West. Why do they sell out? Why do they sell out? Now, I'm going to put forth my opinion on why that is. Now, we already know elections are heavily influenced by the West, right? We already know that candidates that are backed by the West, they usually, most times than not, they are going to enter the seat of power. And if by miracle of God, the candidate that is backed by the West, he loses the election, and the one that is backed by the people, he enters the seat of power, well, we usually know what happens, right? We usually know that soon after comes a overthrow, right? They remove him forcibly from the seat of power, and they put their guy in the seat by force if they cannot get it through a democratic, quote unquote, election. We've seen it time and time again. In fact, I believe it's been over 20 presidents on the African continent that have lost their life, and even more that have been forcibly removed from the seat of power. Now, because of that fact, we are usually stuck with leaders who do not do the work of the people, who do not do the bidding of the people. They usually do the bidding of outsiders, foreign governments, foreign corporations who line their pockets, right? Now, why do these men choose to do the bidding of outsiders, do the bidding of men who are not their countrymen, and why do they sell out their own people of whom they share blood, lineage, culture, and everything else, right? Why is that? Now, contrary to popular belief, whether a candidate is backed by the West or not, these are intelligent men. These are not men who are, goofballs. I know we talk about them like they're idiots, but no, these men are not idiots, right? These men are very educated men. They've been to prestigious universities, sat in prestigious classrooms. They know a thing or two. They know a thing or two about politics, history, things like that. They understand how things got to the way they got. Now, what happens is you have two groups of men. You have the one black man that's going to say, regardless of the obstacles in my way, regardless of what history has shown us of what happens to black men who stand on principle and integrity and do the bidding of the people, I'm still going to do the work of the people, and I'm going to get into the seat of power, and I'm going to do what my people asked me to do, what my people elected me to do, regardless of any outsiders whose interests may be threatened by my political decision and my political actions, right? You have that one black man. That's the black man that's going to be forcibly removed from the seat of power. That's the black man that's going to be dodging attempts on his life. That's the black man who most likely he can't hop on a plane because God forbid the plane come down. That's going to be the black man who's not going to be able to, go to different restaurants and this like that. He's going to have the personal chef. He's going to have his wife make his food. You know what I'm saying? I believe there was one president by the name of out of Tanzania, President Magufuli. God rest his soul, rest in peace. He passed away a couple years ago. No surprise. And I believe he actually said that he never boarded a plane. He never took a trip to a Western nation. He never even took a trip to another African nation. And like I said before, I believe his wife was his personal chef. Everything he ate, everything he drank went through his wife. He did not have outsiders, bringing him food. Because listen, that's how they slip you in with the, you drink something, you sip something, and then you never wake up. So that's the level of precaution that you are going to take if you are in a position of leadership and you are doing the work of the people. Now, if you a sellout, man, listen, you could take flights every day. You could hop on a plane every day, take 2 flights a day, travel to Europe, back to America, come back home. You could do your thing. You could go eat at any 5-star restaurant you would like, and no attempt will be made on your life. In fact, not only will you have no attempt made on your life, but in fact, you will have the protection and the backing of foreign government. So if the people want to rebel against you because you're such a sellout and because you're selling out the country, listen, foreign militaries and foreign governments will be deployed to provide protection and assistance to keep you in the seat of power, right? Whereas the first black man, the one who has integrity, he's going to be forcibly removed from the seat of power. The second black man who decides to, play ball with the West and sell out, as we call it, he's going to get military assistance. He's going to get forcible assistance to keep him in power over the people because he's doing the bidding of foreign governments and foreign corporations. And guess what? A lot of big money's coming in, and they want that big money to keep rolling in. If the first guy with integrity gets in, well, guess what? The money train gonna stop. You know what I'm saying? The faucet on the money train gonna stop, and all the benefits that they get, the foreign corporations, the foreign governments, they are no longer going to be able to maintain those. So that man is gonna be forcibly removed. Also, before he's forcibly removed, he's going to be blacklisted. He's going to be sanctioned. So his children are not going to be able to go to the quote unquote prestigious universities of the world, the Harvards and the Yales and the universities out in London and Paris, their children will not have access to those amenities and those benefits because their father wanted to, be a patriot, be a revolutionary, be a nationalist, as they call it. So the children are not going to be able to live a certain lifestyle. You, as the leader, you're not going to be able to live a certain lifestyle. You're not going to be able to get a visa to travel to certain nations because they view you as an adversary, right? Based on your political policies, right? So the first reason why leaders sell out, number one, they don't want to deal with the stress of having attempts made on their life, being removed from power, their children and themselves not being able to access certain parts of the world, certain luxuries of the planet that they feel themselves they are entitled to. So that's why a lot of leaders, they play ball because of the benefits that come with it, especially the kickbacks that they get from the foreign corporations. Because when you make, how do I say, openings for foreign corporations to come in and set up shop, yes, you as the leader, you get a kickback off the profit. So yes, you are also going to get, a nice bag of money, some millions of dollars to be able to put in your coffers, to be able to put in your personal bank account. So a lot of leaders, man, it's just when they weigh the options, they see which is the easier life. They see which is the most comfortable life. And the biggest thing of all, which we have to take accountability as the citizens, right? Those of us who elect these leaders, when we get someone good, like a Patrice Lumumba, I believe I put him as the thumbnail. When we get someone good like a Patrice Lumumba, but there were many black men that I could have mentioned, that have suffered the same fate as a Patrice Lumumba. When we get a good guy, when we get a good one like Patrice Lumumba, and then he suffers the fate that he suffered, one of the most tragic ways for a black man to pass away, and the people do not absolutely rebel and revolt and get revenge on what happened to their leader. And we essentially, what happens after every time a great one is taken out? We just keep moving on as business as usual. There is no ramifications for their actions. There are no repercussions for their actions. They can pretty much just keep it moving, keep doing business, keep making money. Once they put their guy in power, they just keep it moving, and we don't really retaliate. We don't really do anything, and they know that. That's why, like I said, they were able to pull this off over 20 times, forcibly removing men from the seat of power by ending their existence, right? So if they know that we're never, ever gonna really, come back and avenge the honor of the soldier that was fallen, of the general that fell, then of course they know, man. They know these people. Listen, we can do whatever we want. We can do whatever we want. We can install anybody we want in power. They can remove anybody they want from power, and they know that there will be no repercussions for their actions, right? There will be no boycott. There will be no movement going against them. Now, really, lately in West Africa, there has been, in Francophone West Africa, there has been heavy anti-Francophone sentiment, anti-France sentiment in certain West African nations, certain French-speaking nations, right? And I like to see that because it's about time. And I've even covered, for example, the country of Mali. I've covered how they kicked out the French ambassador, they kicked out the French military, they kicked out everything French. They severed ties with the French government entirely, right? And guess what happened to the leader of the Malian people, right? He's been blacklisted. He's been sanctioned. He can't travel to Europe. His bank account assets have been frozen in those nations. So like I said, he's suffering that fate of a black man who's standing on principle for his people. And I also covered how there were already 2 or 3 attempts made on his life in the past year, 2 years, or year and a half, right? So not every leader wants to deal with that stress. Not every leader wants to deal with that problems, especially if they know that the people who they're representing are not going to avenge their honor if something happens to them, right? That's the cold, hard facts of the matter. Put yourself in any of these leaders' shoes. You sit back and you understand, man, listen, if I put my neck out there and my head gets chopped off, are they going to ride for me? Are they going to avenge my honor? If I fall on the battlefield, are they going to ride for me? And the fact of the matter is, we are not going to ride. We are not going to ride. And they know that. The foreign governments know that. And because of that fact, it's business as usual, right? Every now and again, we get a good one. But for the most part, these dudes, they playing ball with the West, man. They playing ball with the West. It is what it is. It is what it is. And I can't really fully blame them because they got to cut deals with the West to build up their nation, because the diasporas of these nations, right? The ones who have left the nation and acquired the skills and the knowledge necessary to engage in the process of nation building, they haven't came back. They haven't came back and offered their expertise to the country. So that's why you have a lot of these black nations. They have to go to the Chinese. They have to go to the French. They have to go to the Americans to cut deals to build their nation, because the diasporas of these countries, either they're trying to leave, they're trying to relocate, immigrate, and they don't want to come back. That's the thing. It's one thing to leave, go out, get the resources and the expertise and the knowledge. but they do not come back for the most part. For the most part, there's a fraction who do come back. There's a fraction who do come back from the diaspora to engage with these nations, but it's not enough to where we can be, you know what I'm saying, securing multi-billion dollar government contracts, things like that. So they have to kind of play ball with the West, and they have to play ball with foreign governments because the diasporas of these nations have kind of left them hanging, right? And they know that people are not going to ride for them. Now, I'm not making excuses for why leaders sell out, for why leaders don't do what they're supposed to do. But you have to understand, if they were backed by the West, right? If their campaign was funded and everything was supported by the West and their position of power is maintained by the West, of course they would do the bidding of the West because the West is what maintains their power. If they knew that they had a solid populace behind them ready to ride, man, listen, I guarantee we would have more black men standing on the front lines that are leaders of their nations that are ready to risk it all, right? But for the most part, these dudes are not ready to risk it all because they see us and how we're living. They're like, man, how come the leaders, in my opinion, their mentality is this, right? If my citizens, they run into the West. My citizens, they want to go live in the West. My citizens, they copy in the West, right? They want to dress like the West. They doing everything like the West. They think the West is the gold standard. They think, well, if they doing it, then what's wrong if I do the same thing as a head of state? Why can't I get in bed with the West? The citizens, they in bed with the West. You know what I'm saying? They run into the white countries. They dating white people. So why the heck can't I get in bed with the West and do political deals and maintain political ties with the West, right? So listen, at the end of the day, it's a complicated thing, right? So we as the people, the leaders reflect the people, right? So the leaders are doing what the people are doing. The people, they're in bed with the West. They're trying to run to the West as well. They're trying to get in cahoots with the West because they believe what the West has to offer is better than what they have at home, right? So the leaders who are of the population, they have the same mentality because they were raised in the society. So once they rise to a position of supreme power, they maintain that mentality. And that's why they sell out. Unless you get a revolutionary black man, a pro-black, you know, a real nationalist who gets into the seat of power by accident, you know what I'm saying? Because if the West can control it, they'll make sure that anybody like that is blocked from even getting into the seat of power. But if by a miracle of God, they do get into the seat of power, you know what I mean? By accident, you know what I'm saying? Luckily, like when we get a Patrice Lumumba, when we get a Thomas Sankara, when we get a Dessalines, when we get a Christophe, things like that, they'll do everything in their power to knock that guy off. Now, when we look at the post-Haitian revolutionary years, when we look at the regime of King Henry Christophe, right, you can go to my playlist section for more info on his reign of power, right? I've covered that extensively on my channel. King Henry Christophe had a population behind him that he knew was ready to ride and sacrifice everything. That's why King Henry, he died in power. He did not die, you know, in a foreign prison. He died in power inside his palace, worth billions of dollars, and the West could never take him out because they knew he had a population riding behind him that already showed and proved on the battlefield that they're ready to ride, right? So King Henry Christophe was confident in all the political dealings that he was involved in because he knew my population is going to ride. But when a leader does not have that same backing, that same support, that same reassurance that my people are going to ride for me, listen, they're going to sell out. They're going to do what's comfortable for them and their family, make sure their kids have the best comfortable life, make sure they got the fattest bank account, and make sure they live a long life into old age. You notice these dictators, these politicians, these leaders that are backed by the West, they live into old age. But the black man that's revolutionary, the black man that's for his people, he never gets the blessing of living until he's 80, 90 years old, right? He always passes away around the age of, 38, 37, 44, 42, 41. Those black men, those legendary men, they never get the blessing of living a long life. And I think once you step into certain roles, once you step into certain lanes, you have to understand, listen, I'm playing with fire. I'm playing with big interest, big billion-dollar interest. And you have to understand that you might not be able to live long. You have to understand that you have to be willing to sacrifice yourself for your people, right? And I think for the most part, a lot of these dudes, they're just not willing to do that. Now, if they're not willing to do that, they shouldn't be in power. But guess what? They are protected and they are maintained in the seat of power because they protect the interests of foreign governments and foreign corporations who are backed by foreign militaries. So it's a complicated situation, right? It starts with the people. In my opinion, you should raise politicians from young, educate them from young. And like it's always been this way, right? Way back when it was kingdoms on the continent, when it was nations on the continent in the pre-colonial era, what you would have is you would raise the politician from birth. You would raise the leader from birth. We would already know this would be the one, this would be the heir to the throne. And we are going to raise him in a way to where once he's an adult, he's ready to take the reign of power, right? That is how we're supposed to do it. We're supposed to take him from a young age and raise him up to lead the nation, right? We don't really do that anymore, unfortunately. So, I don't want to make the video too long, but yeah, I did want to rekindle this discussion. I did talk about this in previous videos way back when the channel was much smaller, and I'm, bringing it back. I like this discussion, and I think it's just something we should talk about. So anyways, man, it's your boy Neferkari Desaline back in the building. Yes, indeed. Like, share, subscribe, Cash App in the description. Support the platform. And I'm gone.
Reincarnated, I'm back in original fashion. I left on a horse and came back in that ass, and I left with abundance and came back to famine. We used to be pyramids, now we be rapping. Look how the mighty have fallen. Used to be running, now we be walking. When you be cooning, that's when they applauded. Selling your soul, your sons and your daughter. Gotta come up in this shit, they stuck in the mix. Really, my heart it be breaking. That's why I'm stacking that paper and handle my business. Pass it down in generation. Talking about money and power and building a nation. That's a deadly combination. Never be watching the TV, they pushing agendas, falsifying information. Know they got malice intentions. Step in the room and I'm feeling the tension. Enemy watching, he blocking my vision. Pay for the check cause I need my redemption. Building my kingdom, I need it protected. Ready for war like a young Money Congo. Never decided the team is the motto. Up in the crib and I'm whipping up waffles. Up in the crib and I'm smoking gelato. I'm chilling, I'm taking my pain and make it ambition. I'm blessed by the gods, but I ain't religious. I came for the power, they came for the bitch. They making no hourly wage. I got business, this shit is an art, and they could never be taught. Selling my soul, I can never be bought. Play with my money, I see you in court. Run to the check and I do it for sport. Babylon falling, I go to the source. Packing my luggage and go overseas. Shorty be with me and she so elite. Shorty be chocolate, I'm calling her Hershey. Secret intelligence probably gon' murk me. Don't fuck with brands, cause nigga I'm Haitian. Say the wrong shit and get smack in their faces.